"The political winds in this country right now," said Luther Strange as he conceded Alabama's Republican Senate primary to Roy Moore on September 26, "are very hard to understand." Thus ended a bitter 6-week runoff campaign to choose a Republican nominee to fill the seat vacated when President Donald Trump appointed Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. Primary elections in off years do not normally attract national attention, especially in single-party states such as Alabama. But this race turned into a proxy battle between Stephen Bannon, a firebrand who served as Mr. Trump's chief strategist until August, and Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, with Mr. Trump, who ambivalently endorsed Mr. Strange, caught awkwardly in the middle. Around $20 million flowed in, mostly from groups based outside the state. Mr. Strange raked in nearly 7 times as much as Mr. Moore. Mr. Bannon backed Mr. Moore, Alabama's former Chief Justice and an unyielding theocrat, who was twice suspended from the bench, once for defying a federal court's order to remove a large plaque of the Ten Commandments he had placed in the state's Supreme Court's rotunda, and again for refusing to issue marriage licenses to gay couples. He is also a showman, quoting Samuel Adams, a founding father, at length, waving a revolver around at his final rally and riding to the polls on horseback, wearing a Tengalon hat. Religious conservatives love his devotion to principle. Others find him, in the words of a longtime Alabama politico, crazier than a sprayed roach. Mr. McConnell backed Mr. Strange, a mild-mannered ex-lobbyist who served as Alabama's Attorney General until Robert Bentley, then governor, gave him an interim appointment to Mr. Sessions' seat in February. He made much of his qualifications, accomplishments, and friendship with Mr. Trump. But despite this appeal to Trump voters, Mr. Moore held a steady lead in the polls. Mr. Strange would have made a serviceable senator, but his sunny calm proved unsuited to the times. Visits from Mr. Trump and Mike Pence, the vice-president, failed to sway voters, who proved perfectly content to vote for a Trumpian candidate in defiance of Mr. Trump. In any case, Mr. Trump's endorsement was hardly full-throated. During a meandering speech on September 22, he said he might have made a mistake in backing Mr. Strange, and vowed to campaign like hell for Mr. Moore if he won. Mr. Bannon, Sebastian Gorka, Sarah Palin and even Britain's Nigel Farage all visited Alabama to stump for Mr. Moore. Mr. Bannon told a big rally on September 25 that a vote for Judge Roy Moore is a vote for Donald J. Trump. Alabama gets to show the entire world that this populist, nationalist, conservative movement is on the rise. Mr. Moore will face Doug Jones, the Democratic nominee, on December 12. Mr. Jones is a former federal prosecutor from a blue-collar background. He successfully convicted 2 Klansmen who had long escaped justice for murdering 4 black girls in a church bombing in 1963. Between Mr. Jones' backstory, Mr. Moore's tendency to underperform, in 2012 he eked out a narrow statewide victory as Mitt Romney, the presidential nominee, carried the state handily, and Democrats outperforming in special elections since Mr. Trump's victory. Democrats believe they have a shot. But it is a long one. Mr. Moore should not be too nervous. Congressional Republicans should be. Mr. Bannon has scented blood. Mitch McConnell, he told the rally, "Your day of reckoning is coming." On the day Mr. Moore won, Bob Corker, a moderate Republican from Tennessee, announced his retirement, probably to be replaced with someone further to the right. Jeff Flake and Dean Heller, moderate Republican senators from Arizona and Nevada, face well-funded primary challengers. Others will doubtless arise between now and next year's elections, whomever the president endorses. Trumpism trumps Trump.